satellite and the launch vehicles, obviously, as well as the ground systems and the subsequent data analysis are those areas where we see there's large amount of contribution India could be making. And of course, more bigger and bigger part of course, this market comes out of the satellite-based services. And that's an area where, again, connectivity and those things, Indian industry has good amount of those promises. The demand for space-based applications and services is growing even within India. The need for satellite data, imagery, the space technology now cuts across sectors, the weather to agriculture, the transport to urban development, and more. If ISRO were to provide all these, it would have a huge capacity to a current level to meet the demand that is arising. Therefore, it makes a great pragmatic sense for the government, both economic as well as at strategic levels, to actually say that the sector is now open and let the private enterprise play a role here. One must, however, wait to see if the Indian industries can put together the resources and the kind of models which essentially can be evolved between the Department of Space, ISRO, and of course the industry, and the kind of technologies which obviously have been developed within India to undertake independent defense projects, and of course the kind of companies which we now see some of them who are joining from overseas, and those organizations we can sort of get into some relationships with. I do therefore feel that the industry, including the technology-savvy MSME and startups, are in for a very exciting times as far as space sector is concerned. This is where some of the other sectors were typically 3 decades and 2 decades back in terms of time, and the opening is just the first sign that the sector is now open, and imagination is going to be a limit in terms of where we possibly can build our business models on. We in the industry will be closely watching the unfolding of the activities of InSpace, the NSIL, and the active participation of industry in the future journey. I hope that the deliberations during this conference will discuss various business models for participation of the Indian private industry in ushering in a new era for Indian space sector. Wishing the conference a grand success, and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patil. May I now request Mr. Chandrajeet Banerjee, Director General, Confederation of Indian Industry, to give his theme address.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I just wanted to not give really a theme address because there are experts who can give theme address on this. I just wanted to really talk on behalf of the CII, Confederation of Indian Industry, and really talk about how grateful I am that it is for CII to really be guided in doing this very important and special conference. I'd like to really also welcome the honorable member of Niti Aayog, Dr. V.K. Saraswat, with whom we have had the pleasure and honor of working for such a long time. Thank you, Dr. Saraswat, for gracing this this occasion. It really makes it all the more important. Happy to be here with Mr. Sivam, with Mr. Narayanan, of course, with both Jayant Patel and Rakesh Shashibhushan. And I must compliment them for really leading this this important conference for us. And we are indeed, I am delighted to host this International Space Conference and Exhibition under the partnership and guidance, if I can say, of the ISRO, Antrix, and of course NSIL. We have been working very closely with Antrix and ISRO with an objective to build a stronger and a vibrant ecosystem in India. And the National Space Conference, with the theme ushering the new era for Indian space sector, is being conducted, I feel, at a very appropriate time over here. It was only last month that our government announced setting up of an Indian Space Promotion and Authorization Center, the InSpace, as a part of our Honorable Prime Minister's call for a new and bold reforms to promote Atmanirbhar Bharat. And InSpace has been created to provide private players to use Indian space infrastructure. Private companies will therefore be provided a level playing field in building satellites, launches, and space-based services. The new reforms in space sector really also enables tech startups and industries to play a very significant role now in the entire range of space activities, including planetary exploration missions. So India has already cemented a reputable place amongst a handful of countries with advanced capabilities in the space sector. And with the new reforms, the sector will receive new energy and dynamism to help the country leapfrog to the next stages of space activities. And I'm therefore very, very delighted and happy to note the senior leadership space agencies from France, Australia, the Czech Republic, who all are attending this conference. Indeed, delighted to see them being present. Their presence really would help the participants gain insights into the dynamics of global space economy. I again want to express my gratitude to Dr. Saraswat for steering the space activities bill for India, which shall go a long way for strengthening and encouraging the participation of private sector agencies in space activities in India. And I also would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Saraswat and Dr. Sivan for considering some of the policies related inputs shared by our National Space Committee. And special thanks also to Dr. Sivan for his leadership for the development of the Indian space sector. And especially, I would also like to mention about Mr. Shashi Bhushan, who is chairing the CII National Committee on Space. And it's not been a very easy task to chair this and for him to bring everyone together, because everyone in this space of space is a prima donna and very, very important and have very strong leadership position. So I really would like to thank him, and of course Mr. Jayant Patel for really getting this off the ground, and also like to end by congratulating Mr. Narayanan for his leadership as the CMD of the New Space India Limited and the new commercial arm, of course, of ISRO, and so I really would like to offer from CII all our supports to the NSIL, and we will look really forward to closely working with them. And I do believe that many in the Indian industry, along with the space tech startups, would take this new policy enabling framework as an opportunity to further collaborate with you and work with ISRO and NSIL and international space agencies. Finally, I believe CII, with continued support from the ISRO and NSIL and Antrix, we will continue to do very important and significant work in the space sector. And I'm certain that deliberations during this international conference will be very fruitful and generate many takeaways for all of us and for all the participants. And I would like to wish this conference a very, very grand success. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Banerjee. May I now request Mr. G. Narayanan, CMD New Space India Limited, to kindly give an address.
Good afternoon to all. Am I audible?
Yes, here you are.
Good afternoon to all distinguished speakers of the inaugural session and participants. We at New Space India Limited, mandated to play a significant role in ushering of the new era for Indian space sector, are very much excited and thank the Government of India and Department of Space led by Dr. K. Shivan for facilitating the same. We are gearing ourselves to take up the major task on our shoulders and will be looking forward to the Indian industry for all the support that we may require. We just had a crisp summary of the new mechanism from the special address. As mandated, we will take over and relieve ISRO of their routine activities and empower the industry to carry this forward. ISRO had done a great task in grooming the Indian industries to make them capable of ably supporting the program, and this comes handy for us to begin with. Needless to say, with the opening up of the economy and the current level of globalization, many of these industries have grown much beyond this support and are today supplying many items based on their own designs to ISRO, apart from supplying items to global space industry. While this had been good in its own angle, a large-scale independent development of space systems had not happened in India outside ISRO. During the recent past, new startups have taken bold initiatives and have progressed well, even without sight of the current reform process. Their efforts and probably their progress would have hastened the current reforms too. It's my assessment that one of the key factors for this lag had been the lack of specialized technical expertise. ISRO had been an organization driven by passionate scientists, engineers, and supporting officials, one of the secrets of its success. They had dedicated their lives to ISRO with no other motivation being larger than this. Hence, continue to serve until governmental provisions permitted. Now, with many of them crossing their superannuation, etc., are available in the country with their rich expertise, and those superannuated left with the passion and energy for research and development in space. I am sure this is a major facilitating factor at this moment. This reform process would not have come at a better time than this, when all the ingredients are right and the small push or support required in terms of cost-intensive facilities, launch sites, etc., and a facilitating regulatory mechanism getting bridged through this process. Needless to say, while this will be challenging for the traditional space industry in India, I'm sure they will also take on innovation and competitiveness and stand to gain. Space is one segment where 100% independence can be obtained by nation only at extremely large costs and time. Cooperation and collaboration will be the way forward, and I sincerely hope that this new era in India will bring a lot of economic activities with global partners. India is known for indigenous and frugal solutions on many complex issues, and this will definitely be a strength for the international community can leverage apart from many others. I thank CIA for organizing this conference in spite of all pandemic-related odds at this opportune time, and wish the participants great takeaways and the conference all success. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Narayanan. May I now request Mr. Anthony Murphet, Deputy Head, Australian Space Agency, for a special address, please.
Good evening and good morning and good afternoon, everyone. And it is a real pleasure to be here and to address the audience in this inaugural session of the International Space Conference. And we are really pleased to be here at this prestigious event as a guest country. Firstly, I do want to extend the Australian Space Agency's and Australia's well wishes as India and the world face the challenges with COVID-19, and really wish you the best as we all face those particular challenges. I also want to congratulate the Indian government on its Gaganyaan human spaceflight program, which is really an inspiration to all people, but particularly to the people of India. And as we've heard from these addresses, it is really exciting to hear the recent announcements in India and its space sector, particularly the focus on the private sector. And as I talk about Australia's activities, we'll see great synergies and opportunities for collaboration between our two nations. Turning to Australia, and Australia's commercial space sector is accelerating at a rapid growth rate. What we're seeing is, with the large evolving nature of space technologies, with smaller satellites and cheaper access to space, it means that Australia is playing a key role And the growth is forecast to be around 8% over the last couple of years in a pre-COVID context. And it was forecast to grow from 2020 to 2025 at around 7%. And we'll need to see the impacts in a post-COVID world. But we know that with space playing such an important role in our lives, whether it is in supporting agriculture, helping farmers, using Earth observations, or the miniaturization of technology and supporting manufacturing, space will play a very, very important role. And we have seen here in Australia around $2 billion in inbound capital and activities over the last couple of years since the agency has been up and running. So I do want to leave you with the excitement that we're seeing here in Australia, and that space is really a key economic opportunity for Australia, and one that we're looking forward to continue discussions with India. And in that context of where we have these rapid innovation cycles, smaller technologies and cheaper access to space, and we're using space to help manage our lands and to inspire the next generation, it is in that context the Australian Space Agency was established on the 1st of July 2018, and we had a clear mandate to grow and transform Australia's space industry. Unlike many other space agencies around the world, we have a very, very clear mandate to grow and transform our industry. And to support that, the Australian government has invested nearly $700 million in Australian dollars since 2018-19 to really boost and drive. And the role of the agency is around growing and transforming that globally respected space industry, where the agency plays a key role as a partner and facilitator. And as part of that role, we've got a very clear mission. Our mission is to triple the size of the space economy from around $4 billion in Australian dollars to 12 billion, and create another 20,000 jobs by 2030. We have around 10,000 people employed in our space sector at this current point in time. And that's the important thing I'd also like to highlight is Australia is not new to space. Many will know that we were involved when Neil Armstrong put his feet on the surface of the moon. And we've had NASA and Geoscience Australia and many players in our industry, either from research or industry itself, engaging in space. But now we have an agency, and the agency is really the front door. And we are being the front door because we have a mandate to open those doors internationally, build our national capability, be responsible in our space activities, and inspire. And as we go through, one thing I do want to reflect is I do want to acknowledge President Beagle, who is here, and he was one of the first space agencies that reached out to Australia when we were established in July, and provided us a guiding hand in one of the first MOUs that we signed. And also with what we're looking forward to is with India, we already have an MOU in place for civil space activities. And I know through the agency, we are looking to build on those collaborations going forward. And I do see real opportunities, particularly with the private sector engaging. We have a thriving sector here in Australia, whether it is in using data from Earth observation satellites, our land that allows us a unique view in the Southern Hemisphere, or exciting areas such as robotics and automation, where in our mining sector, we control many of our mining activities over 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers away. The rail drives itself. The drills are controlled from far away, and the big trucks are automated. And we know that level of automation are the type of technologies that can be used in space. And I'm only just touching the surface as I talk through what Australia can do. But when we look at the opportunities in Australia, and we have that central mission to be engaging internationally, opening those doors, and we know the economic opportunity that is there with space. We also see space, and we know the Australian government sees space as a key part of our economic transition and our economic recovery as we look in a post-COVID world. I'd like to touch just on a couple of programs to give you a sense of what we've been doing in Australia over the last couple of years and the opportunities that are there. One of the earlier things we've focused on is building some of the infrastructure that Australia needs so our businesses can support and engage in international supply chains. The first activity we've invested in through our Space Infrastructure Fund is a mission control facility in our headquarters in Adelaide for those that have been into South Australia here in Australia. And we're building a mission control centre so that it allows businesses to control their small satellites from a central location And it's a shared resource, because what we're looking at is how do we provide shared capability so the businesses themselves can think about how they can apply space technologies using joint infrastructure. We're also investing in a space data analysis facility, which is in Western Australia. What we're harnessing is linking one of our supercomputers called the Pawsey supercomputer, and linking it with space data to show the Australian people and other areas of the economy how you can use space data to support other areas of the economy, either using it to support farmers to analyse their land, or in a space context, understanding space situational awareness. Talking earlier around Australia's capabilities in automation and command and control and what we call remote asset management, we're also investing 4.5 million Australian dollars in something called the Robotics, Automation and AI Command and Control Centre. What this centre will do, it is being led by Fugro Australia, and it will take the technology that we have in the resources sector, the automation that we see, and show how that can be applied to space and allow Australians to control robotics and automate activities in space. And I think this is one of these really exciting areas we're seeing in Australia, in that with space becoming more accessible, Australia has other areas of the economy where we can spin in the technologies to support. And coming back to the earlier conversations around the growth of India's private sector, we're really being a partner and facilitator to ensure Australia's space industry is there at the front and is able to collaborate with our international partners. Talking around our international activities, we've also run a program called our International Space Investment Initiative. And this was really going to the heart of one of the purposes of the agency about investing with international partners and opening those doors so Australian technologies can support missions around the world. And to give you an idea of just some of those technologies that are being supported, there's a company called Human Aerospace, and it's developing an intravehicle activity skin suit. And what it's designed to do is to prepare a skin suit that simulates gravity loading on the body so they believe that they're standing on the Earth. And it is a great way to think about the physiological aspects of human endeavour as it relates to space. And that's just one of the other areas where Australia can play a role, particularly in the areas of space medicine. We have a world-class medical system, and now that space is more accessible, we have a lot of opportunity to leverage those capabilities for around the world and lift that collaboration. We also have a mission called the Spirit Mission, which is a collaboration of industry and research who are building a CubeSat mission in partnership, for example, with the Italian Space Agency, and showing how Australian capabilities, sensors and IoT devices can go into space and contribute to those endeavours. One of our most exciting initiatives, in addition to the ISI, was actually announced last year by our Prime Minister when visiting the US, and it was called our Moon to Mars initiative, where Australia will partner with NASA on its ambitions and its inspirational plan to get forward to the moon by 2024 and onto Mars. And the Australian government has invested $150 million here in Australia to support our businesses and researchers to engage in international supply chains and bring the very best of Australian ideas, know-how and technologies to support NASA on its ambitions. And it's central to our mission that we have, which is tripling the size of Australia's space sector to 12 billion and creating another 20,000 jobs. Very briefly, how does the program operate? Very much focused on growing our space industry here. Firstly, we've got an element around supply chain activities where we're going to support businesses to build the capability so they can contribute to space missions, making sure they have the right capability so they can contribute to those missions, or show that if we have a manufacturer that is supporting the defense sector, for example, working on carbon fiber, that they can use that technology and apply it in a space context. We'll have a demonstrator program which will showcase Australian capabilities in larger projects that can contribute to the space mission. And the last bit that we'll have is our Trailblazer, which is our signature piece of around $50 million Australian. So Australians can look up to the sky and say Australian technology has helped NASA on its mission to go forward to the moon and onto Mars. And in closing, I'd just like to bring it back to collaboration with India. I touched on some of the earlier engagement that we have, and we have a formal memorandum of understanding which was signed between our two nations in 2012. And one of the earlier projects that we had was the Mars orbiter mission known as Mangalan, which was launched in September 2014. And our CSIRO, who had supported through the Deep Space Network many NASA missions, was also able to support that project. We've also got great engagement through our Australia-India Strategic Research Fund, which has supported a range of efforts between our two countries. And we're also now, as the agency, working very closely with ISRO to facilitate activities relating to your Gangalain mission, which we're really excited to do. And I think in closing, what I would like to say, and hearing the conversations and the excitement around India's space industry and the growth of the private sector, Australia is well on track to make a significant contribution in the future. We have a thriving sector here, whether it is in our priority areas of Earth observation, position navigation and timing, if it's in using robotics and automation, or new areas such as AI, IoT, or rocket propulsion. Our industry is thriving. We've got a mission to engage internationally. We know we need to do that with our partners. And so I want to commend this International Space Conference, really looking forward to hearing the outcomes. And as we see India's private sector grow, there are opportunities to collaborate with Australia, and we're looking forward to those conversations. So thank you very much, and I wish you a very, very happy and successful conference.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moffat. The next dignitary to honor us with his presence is Dr. Yves Legal, President, CNES. May I now kindly request Dr. Legal for your special address, please.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues and friends, and I am delighted to be part of today's event. I have attended every edition since 2014, and it is saddening that we couldn't meet face-to-face this year. I really do miss my travels to India. I usually visit 3 to 4 times a year, and what I value for most is a bright spirit in which space activities are conducted off the beaten track. Indeed, Western space models would do well to draw inspiration from India. And on a more personal note, each of my stays in India has been a bliss, a breath of fresh air in my hectic schedule, and my belief is that India has even more to bring in the new world order arising out of the present crisis. In fact, our economies have been badly hit. At CNES, we have reacted rapidly, and we are in a position to prevent any cancellation of programs. The developments engaged in particular with ISRO have continued remotely, and we are looking at only a couple of months of incompressible delays. I want here to thank my friend Dr. K. Sivan and his teams for their responsiveness. Without your adaptability, this remarkable result couldn't have been achieved. We also edge of our Bangalore-based liaison office, CNES being the only foreign space agency with such a permanent presence in India. And I want to thank very much Mr. Matthew Weiss for taking this duty. The challenges ahead of us will be shaped to a large extent by this crisis. Space activities that were already widely dedicated to benefiting citizens will have to support our societies even more. As a major pillar of our active economy, space applications have reached all sectors of our lives, agriculture, health, transport, and security being only the tip of the iceberg. Space also has a key role to play in reconstruction work for many affected sectors. As far back as 2001, France and India took the pioneering step of making climate a priority of their partnership. In 2016, CNES and ISRO brought together more than 60 space agencies to ratify the New Delhi Declaration, which laid the groundwork for the Space Climate Observatory, or SCO. Launched by President Macron in 2019 in Paris, the scope is the unique initiative of a vast majority of space agencies to join forces in combining the capacities of their satellites to offer an independent view for adaptation to climate change. Indeed, Satellite systems provide by far the highest amount of data to climate models, and space is the only global and permanent observatory we have. As a core part of this initiative, CNES and ISRO have already operating climate monitoring satellites together. Krishna, a highly precise thermal infrared observer, will soon join this fleet of end-of-range satellites. After a successful design phase conducted by the Joint ISRO CNES team, we will be entering the development phase of the satellite in the coming months. The procurement for the main instrument has already been entrusted to Airbus in April, enabling work to start. This is a remarkable example of continuity during the crisis. Krishna will provide a continuous thermal monitoring at high resolution, its unmatched capabilities serving precious applications ranging from sustainable agriculture to forecasting of droughts and monitoring of urban and islands. Another well-advanced project is the latest French Argos payload module set to flight on the forthcoming Ocean satellite. As you know, Argos is a fantastic system to collect environmental data, track wildlife, and send safety of life alerts. The CNES part of the satellite was recently developed to the UR-RAO Satellite Center. We'll proceed with integration as soon as possible, and CNES and ISRO teams are looking forward with excitement to working together in the same clean room, not least because they know each other very well, having met numerous times during the project preparation. On my side, I am closely following the developments in the Indian ecosystem, where major activities are being transferred to the private sector. I would like to recount a recent story at CNES showing similarities. Our strong will to create a nanosatellite production capacity in France led CNES to support one of its private suppliers, Emeria. Our sole objective here was to give Emeria everything they would need to gain the ability to conceive and build nanosatellites on their own. We pulled this off by working together in a new way, collaborating through co-funding, knowledge transfers, and agile project management with the permanent aim of reducing costs without compromising quality. Angels, the very first French commercial satellite, was launched about 9 months ago. The satellite is living up to its promises and stands as a forerunner for the Kinéis constellation of nanosatellites. So, Emeria has demonstrated its production capacity and is setting foot into the global nanosatellite market. The takeaway here is that CNES expertise has been central to the success of the operation, and that the satellite would not have been built without the institutional contract awarding to industry. In other words, not only public money, but also a precise public ambition translated into a very concrete project sowed the seeds of the success, enabling French industry to be competitive in the commercial marketplace. I'm very confident that you can write similar success stories here in India together with Indian industry and conceive your own ambitious projects. CNES has been busy in recent months despite the crisis. The launch of the Perseverance rover on 30th of July was quite an emotional moment. Much of the Martian rover, including its high-energy laser beam head capable of analyzing the composition of rocks from a distance, come from France. French planetary exploration expertise dates back to the 60s, and it is working in this field with international partners. Today, CNES is involved with the exploration program of the European Space Agency, as well as with NASA, Russia, and more recently, Japan. Indeed, the Japanese Hayabusa 2 mission, including the French-German mascot lander, which we proudly put down on an asteroid. The samples collected by the probe are set to return to Earth at the end of the year. This shall be a very historic moment. Here in India, together with my friend Dr. Sivan, we are always planning ambitious new paths of cooperation, and our discussions give me hope that CNES may soon partner with ISRO on India's upcoming planetary exploration mission. Last time I was in Bangalore, we discussed in detail French technical support to ISRO's broader human spaceflight program. ISRO is about to become a prime player in future crewed space exploration. I'm thinking not only of the Gaganyaan missions, but also of the next leap, which India posed to acquire a permanent orbital outpost in the years to come. CNES has gained extensive technical experience on the ISS and the ATV cargo spacecraft programs. 10 French astronauts have been to space. French ESA astronaut Thomas Pesquet will depart again next year on board the SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule for a 6-month stay on the ISS. CNES is actively preparing for this mission, named Alpha, which will cover various scientific and technological objectives. This instrumentation brought in by CNES for this mission spans virtual reality for robotic control to neuroscience physiology monitoring devices. It is a kind of state-of-the-art expertise we are willing to share with ISRO, and bilateral discussions are already well advanced for Gaganyaan. On the launch vehicle front, we have continued operations at the Guyana Space Center while maintaining strict air protocols. In August, we saw the liftoff of the 253rd Ariane 5 flight, and this month, our Vega vehicle delivered 53 satellites to orbit. Very soon now, we will be performing the final qualification firing of the massive P120C booster. Common to Ariane 6 and to the first stage of Vega C, the P120PC is the world's largest monolithic carbon fiber solid propellant boosters. At CNES, innovation and international cooperation and in everything we do. By joining forces and pooling talents, international cooperation cuts development cycles and enables projects to be more ambitious. Cultivating contacts with other cultures and methods is, in my opinion, the best way to encourage the disruptive approaches required to stay competitive. Once again, thank you very much, and I wish you successful discussions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Legal. I'm glad to now invite Dr. Vaclav Kobera, Senior Director General, Intelligent Transport Systems and Space Activities Department, Ministry of Transport, for his special address, please.
Thank you for good afternoon to India, dear Mr. Chairman, dear Mr. President, dear colleagues. I'm happy to participate in this international conference and exhibition on space in India, even if only virtually. Especially, I'm very honored and privileged to say some words as a special address here. At the very beginning, I would like to refer to excellent relations between our two countries, between the Czech Republic and India. Last year, visit of Czech Prime Minister Babiš, and this year, visit of Minister of Foreign Affairs. Improve it. India is a valued partner in economy, science, and tourism. There is also a number of running bilateral projects in science or R&D in which our industry and academia are involved. The topic of this conference and exhibition, ushering the new era for Indian space sector, is very relevant to us. The Czech Republic is also starting a new era in its space activities. The Czech Republic has changed its brand from formerly used Land of Stories to the Czech Republic, the country for the future. With the Innovation Strategy 2019-2030, we more focus on education, research, development, innovations, smart solutions, and also international cooperation in science and technology. I'm happy to say that space activities belong to one of our priorities now. Accordingly, Czech budget for space activities increased significantly last years. We have big ambitions in space. Since we are a small country, our population is about 100 times lower than that in India. We realize that we cannot do it alone. Thus, international cooperation is a key element of our national space strategy. The Czech Republic is also a member of European Space Agency and European Union. We actively participate in space activities on these two organizations. Besides, we are happy to host European GNSS Agency in Prague, which will become a European agency or European Union agency for space program as of beginning of next year. We are also very happy to cooperate with other partners, bilaterally and multilaterally. I think that it is worth it to mention in this occasion that in 2017, after 14 years, the Czech satellite was launched to space, this time from India, Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota on the PSLV launch vehicle. Even if it was just a CubeSat, it's still up and running. Just like India, the Czech Republic sees great potential in innovative and in disruptive approaches in space sector and supports new space initiatives. India has established the New Space India Limited company last year, and in this process, it develops the small satellite launch vehicle. In this context, I would like to mention that on the 3rd September in Kourou, French Guiana, there was the first launch of small spacecraft mission service dispenser on the European Beagle launcher. And this dispenser was designed and manufactured in the Czech Republic. We are excited to present the space sector of the Czech Republic and some of our companies at the virtual exhibition, as well as the Czech Space Alliance, which is an industrial association of Czech space industry, to gain contacts to the relevant entities in India and to hear about the new era of the Indian space sector. I wish everyone a fruitful event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kubera. I would now like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Honorable Chief Guest and Member, Niti Aayog, to share his valued perspectives with us, please.
Thank you. At the onset, let me greet all the esteemed participants to this webinar. I would like to make a presentation to all of you on this occasion on the emerging space order, particularly taking clue from what our country has done from the days of Vikram Sarabhai and what the world is doing as far as the space is concerned, both in terms of space economy, space industry, as well as the kind of growth it is going into for understanding the space in a better way. I would like to bring to you the Indian space endeavor. I hope my presentation is visible to all.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So Indian space endeavor was initiated by late Vikram Sarabhai, who said we must be second to none in the application of advanced technology to the real problems of the man and society. And he conceived at that point in time a major space infrastructure, state-of-the-art technology for launching and satellites, insets, launchers, IRS, human expertise to be built up, and taking our country to what we are today. And you see the journey which started under his leadership from early rockets of Rohini 75 to today's GSLV Mark III, where we can go up to 10,000 kilograms of payload and going beyond, and working for reusable launch vehicles and SSTO and things like that by 2030. That is a scenario in which the growth of Indian space programs have taken place, in which there has been tremendous growth in the satellite technologies, right from remote sensing satellite to communication satellites, many satellites from few watts of capabilities in terms of transponders to almost about 1700 to 800 watts of transponders, variety of frequency bands, 3000 watts aiming and going into megatropics. That is the kind of satellite evolution that has taken place. Now you compare it with what is happening in the world today. In the world today, if you see, I have these numbers specifically brought out. In November 2018 in the world, we had total about 1,957 satellites. And just within about 2 years, this number has shot up to 2,666. And the countries like US, China, Russia have certainly augmented their capacities, which are given in the red here. 830 became 1327 for US, and China 280 to 360, and Russia about 147 to 169. So this is the kind of growth which has taken place as far as the satellites in the space are concerned in just 2 years. And the variety of missions for which these satellites have been launched communication satellites, LEO and MEO constellations, both for commercial and government uses, ranging from few hundred kgs to thousands of kgs, remote sensing satellites for Earth observation, signal tracking, radar satellites, satellite ground stations for Earth observations, optical and radar imagery, and a lot of robotics applications which have emerged, like robotic manipulators, rovers, visual sensors, and we of course have the International Space Stations and satellite components and payloads, where there has been tremendous growth by both in terms of component manufacturers, engineering designs and production, and also found application for defense with complex systems being engineered for providing ISR support, electronic warfare support, command control and communication support. That is the kind of thing that has happened. But from the days of the unitary launch vehicles, what we just now saw in the ISRO's arsenal, the today world is moving towards expandable vehicles to systems with reusable first stage to fully reusable two-stage and single-stage vehicles, as well as small, inexpensive, expandable vehicles. And this is the picture what I'm showing you from Falcon 9 to Skylon and super heavy Starship, SpaceX, and so on, Phantom Express, Boeing. All these things are emerging on the scenario where you will see a tremendous growth as far as the reusable, low-cost missions are concerned. There are a large number of opportunities for space which are derived as services, and we have Earth observation satellites, we have satellite imagery and sensor data coming from them, we have navigation and time stamping and mapping which is emerging, and satellite communication both for broadcasting, TV, radio, broadband, Internet of Things, and so on, which is going to be the major thing which is going to emerge as part of the emerging space order. And multiple, I think, industrial applications which are emerging: mining and resources, agriculture, app development, telecommunication, infrastructure management, smart cities, emergency management, disaster management, defense, transport, logistics, meteorology, you name it. And I think space is everywhere, which is getting services. Then we have opportunities for space object tracking, which is space situational awareness for getting debris tracking and monitoring, tracking near Earth objects, including asteroids, and insights derived from the surveillance data to the end user. And we have a spacecraft tracking, telemetry and control, deep space communication, again for defense and satellite operations and so on. We have opportunities for space explorations, which are coming in terms of, I still remember the more touted area where Dr. Kalam used to talk about space-based solar power, and where you have printable solar photovoltaic, energy harvesting and storage, telemetry and vector control, fuels and catalyst designs, a large number of autonomous systems that have emerged and emerging, particularly, which are distributed smart sensor networks, which with augmented reality and virtual reality in teleoperations, and today's AI and machine learning and autonomous robotics. And power and propulsion, which will be again the order of the day for the deep space habitation and requiring tremendous technology for radiation shielding, telehealth and wearables, stabilize food and food production and recycling the waste, and in situ resource utilization, which will be again becoming part of it, like processing new materials and additive manufacturing and resource mapping, which will become part of the emerging space order. There are large numbers of technologies which will focus investment in, and these have been identified by NASA. These are basically areas that are key to the future missions, and that will enhance the national space capabilities. And this will be all over, like high power solar electric propulsion for deep space human exploration, science missions with investments in advanced solar arrays and advanced electric propulsion systems. Applications will be improved affordability of commercial satellites and space optical communication, advanced light support and resource utilization, like technologies for human exploration